Good evening and welcome to Three Beards and a Boss. I am TJ. We have my buddy, my pal, Sergeant Brandon Jacoby, AKA Sgt. Knucklehead. And then, of course, we always have my little big bro, Brian. We're missing a couple people tonight because everyone's working. But
a beard and a boss.
What's that?
We're missing a beard and a boss.
boss. Yep. And I feel out of place without the boss here.
I know. She's the moderator.
So,
what are you drinking there, TJ? Some cranberry juice?
This is not a diet. You know what's in this. You know what's in this. All right, Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
I am E5 in the Army National Guard. I've been in the PA National Guard for 10 years. I've been in a FSC for all 10 of those years, forward support company. I have 4 kids. I am married. I've been married for almost 10 years now. We have a 3-year-old, and then I have 3 teenagers from my ex. My oldest is 19, and she's in college. I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. So, yeah. What else would you like to know?
So, I was looking at your bio, and I sent that to Brian too. But it said that you joined the Guard at 26.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so when I came in, it was like a long time ago. But I came in at 19, stayed in for 5 years, and then I got out, and I didn't come back till I was 35. So when I retire, I'll be 50. So when you retire, you'll be about 51. About that, right?
Yeah. Actually, so technically, if I want to, so I'm AGR right now. I switched over to AGR. If I want to do my full 20 AGR, I have to retire. I'll be like 54 when I retire.
Okay.
Since I hit my 10 years on the Guard side, I guess I would be 46 ish. I could retire. So it all depends.
Yeah. Because I know there's a formula to when you go into the National Guard and you go to an AGR slot, there is a formula to it of how they can count your drills and your ATs and your active duty. There's a formula, and I've had someone explain it to me, and I'm just like squirrel. And
it's complicated.
Right.
And if you look at your ERB, not your ERB, sorry, your and they call it the NGB 23 form.
Right.
23 alpha. It'll show you, it breaks down your retirement points. So if you look at the years that I was only a MilTech and I was only an M-Day soldier, it's a lot less points for those days. Because you're obviously only drilling 3 days, 3 days here, 3 days here, whatever, and then you have annual training. Now that I'm AGR, I'm getting a retirement point every day.
Right.
So it's 360 retirement points. The last 2 years, I've collected 360 each year. So the retirement points as an active AGR soldier are astronomically better. Obviously, you're going to get more. You're going to get more money at the end of that. So it's worth it, in my opinion. It just sucks that I wish I would have done it sooner because I was, like I said, I was a MilTech. I was a technician for 8 years as a mechanic, and I should have gone AGR sooner, but it is what it is.
So if people don't understand what AGR is, basically when you're in the Army National Guard or even in the Army Reserves, the AGR is your full-time active duty guys that handle most of the time they handle the everyday business of a company when everyone else is at their civilian job. And they come, those folks come on the weekends and everything's straight and good to go.
Correct.
So also read that you're about to change over to recruiting.
Yes, I actually started today. I'm slowly transitioning over to that. They're actually the ones that got me this opportunity to be at the Sixers game tomorrow night for the hometown hero. Because they know I have the social media. They're really trying to get my face out there. So they nominated me to go to the game.
Okay.
So they're already looking out for me. I'm super excited. I've been wanting to be a recruiter for a while. So huge opportunity. Pennsylvania's numbers are low, very low.
Oh yeah.
So my goal is to try to help wherever I can to get those numbers up.
Yeah, our Virginia numbers are very low. I remember even a few years ago, our tag had a meeting with all the NCOs. He went around to anytime we were doing a major training, and he sat us down and he said, "Hey, we got to do something about these numbers."
Yeah,
and that was 3-4 years ago, and now it's even worse.
Yeah. I kind of want to. Part of me kind of wants to do like a video of where I go out, and my best friend has a camera, so I might do this. Is just go out during a drill weekend when I know there's going to be a lot of soldiers at post here in Pennsylvania. Just ask them like, why, what can we change? Why is morale low? And it's just me talking to these soldiers. It's not
Right.
It's not me like they're going to get in trouble for being honest.
Right.
They should be able to say what they feel. We just need their opinion. We need soldiers' opinions, and I feel like we don't get enough of that, and we don't listen to junior enlisted soldiers. That's the biggest issue I have.
Well, I tell you what, colonels don't ask NCOs questions unless they want to know the truth. Because years ago, I don't know if you were part of it, but we went to the Virgin Islands for hurricane relief.
I heard about it.
Yeah, it was all jacked up, and we had a colonel come on onto the field, or where we were setting up tents to stay in and all that. And he asked me some questions, and I just told him the truth. And this young lieutenant was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "You know what? When a senior officer asks me a question, I'm going to be very honest with them, because that's the only way you can make change."
Yes.
So I think if we start listening to our soldiers, we can make that positive change. So, and also with your recruiting, that will help you secure a staff sergeant position.
Yes, I will be getting promoted after I go to school in February, March timeframe. I will get my staff sergeant.
There you go.
And a lot of people, it's something I get a lot of, like, why are you still in E5? And I don't think they understand. And I try to explain it to them, and it's fine. And I kind of got to the point where I just kind of stopped explaining it.
Right.
Because I turned down an E6 slot 2 years ago. Because a week prior to me getting that offered that E6 slot, I got this E5 AGR position.
Right.
And if you look at it in my shoes, AGR pay, E5 AGR pay, BAH, or E6 M-Day pay 1 week in a month.
Right.
It was a no-brainer. So but then when I got into the job a year later, they changed the rules to where you need to stay in this position for 3 years before you can move.
Oh, so I used to too.
Yeah, so they changed it to 3 here in PA. I don't know if they changed it in other states, but here they changed it. So I fought and fought. I applied for jobs. And I'm number 1 on the list for AGRs every year.
Right.
But I couldn't go anywhere. Well, I'm still in year 2, but recruiting submitted an exception to policy, and they approved it. So that's how I'm getting out of this position sooner than I'm really supposed to. I kind of slid in there and did what I had to do. I said, look, you guys, I want my A6. I want this opportunity in recruiting. Recruiting's hurting right now. And right now, the state's main focus is recruiting. So it was a no-brainer.
I think that's in almost every state for the National Guard. And I know for active duty, the numbers are way down. They're so down that if you take a young kid and send him over to any of the branches, like even the Air Force, and we all know how strict the Air Force is, they can walk in there with a GED and take the ASVAB and get in the Air Force. That's how bad our branches are hurting right now.
Yeah.
Because 1, it's peacetime, and 2, the whole COVID thing, the whole division that we had a couple years back really hurt our military.
Yeah.
So now we're like, hey, it's like during September 11th, they were not bending the rules, but they were changing the rules on felonies and misdemeanors and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So, and don't worry, Brian does understand everything we're talking about, because Brian, we're military brats. Our father was a command sergeant major in the Army, and he was actually in the Army Reserves. You started out as a medic, and then you were an MP, right? Your favorite people, Jacoby.
No, I started off supply.
You started supply, okay. But then you went MP, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah. My dad was commanding sergeant major of the state of Pennsylvania.
Nice.
So he was big dog on campus. So that was another reason why I joined late, because I didn't want to be under his shadow. Very big shadow.
That's one of the reasons I joined the Navy first, because my father was a sergeant major, and so I joined the Navy. And even in the Navy, this man had pull, because when I graduated from boot camp, I had no idea my father was going to be there, and he showed up the night before, family night, and he basically got to the base. He said who he was, and they was like, "Yeah, you want to where you want to sit?" And he goes, "Well, I'll sit anywhere." So they put him right behind the 2-star admiral, who was the surgeon general at the time of the Navy. So he sat there. I'm out there sweating my nuts off in the heat. And Dad's got this big tent. He's relaxing. He wears dress uniform. Of course, people are saluting him because Navy, we don't have a clue.
Yeah.
Brian had it worse, because when he went to AIT, he did it at Fort Lee, and that's where my father was a sergeant major at. That was his last duty station. So my dad used to snatch him out to go and have lunch with him. He had it worse.
That was uncomfortable at times.
A handful of times, enough to get you in trouble with drills. Yeah.
Well, it was just because he would talk trash in the line. He talked trash to people because people would be flustered because like you said, there's all these people at Fort Lee. It was the only quartermaster school, so people in the Navy, people from every branch were there, and he's like asking like what his rank is, and they're like all flustered. And then there was Coast Guard there, and he's like saying stuff like, "I thought you had to be 6 feet tall to be in the Coast Guard." And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "That way, if your boat sinks, you can walk back to shore." And I'm like, "Dad, dude, I have to sleep in the same bunk, in the same quarters as these guys, man." I'm like,
chill, Dad. Chill.
He used to do.
That sounds like something he would do, is go to a post and be like, "Here, this is me. I'm gonna put me somewhere." That sounds like
you're like, just hurry up and get through AIT.
Yeah.
So, and you can work both ways. You can your instructors might say, "All right, we're not going to rag this guy too hard," or they're going to F you up the entire time you were in.
They give me a hard time because I didn't say anything to anybody.
Okay. You were quiet.
And it was like 2 weeks in before they found out, and then they were actually pissed at me that I didn't say anything to them. But I was like, I'm not trying to come here and start saying things like that.
Yeah,
I'm maybe 18, but I'm not that.
Yeah, so we had to give our ID cards up if you're a dependent in boot camp. So when I gave my ID card to the guy that was in charge of him, I paid him off so he would not give that ID card right away to my instructors. I was like, "Dude, name your price." And he told me what the price was. And I said, "Word." So they had no clue until the day he showed up on Family Day. Because they were like, we were all lined up in the barracks, and they're just doing their jacking everybody up before we get out there for family night. And they said, "Recruit Stevens, your father is a better looking than your ugly mug ass." And I'm like, what are they talking about? Because he was actually in Germany at the time.
Yeah.
So he hooked me right on up and dogged me the entire time. Every time someone would salute him, he's like, "That's 20 push-ups." My father, our dad's been gone since 2018, and I still owe that man some push-ups. So when I get to heaven, I gotta hook him up. I kept telling him, like, "We can't drop me in my dress uniform. We gotta wait."
Yeah, at AIT, I went to Fort Lee for AIT, but I went to Ordnance Island. They found out my dad was sergeant major. I don't know how they did. No idea how they found out that my dad was sergeant major, but the one air assault instructor, she used to be an air assault instructor, but she ended up becoming a cadre for the schoolhouse. Made me do push-ups. Yeah, I was not happy.
On top of everything you got to do extra push-ups. Never any fun.
Not cool.
No. But then after that, I was like her favorite. I was her favorite soldier.
Yeah.
She took me everywhere. I'm like, okay, cool. She's like, "Jacoby, you're coming with me." Okay, cool. Roger that. Never.
Nice. So do you do a lot of training at the Gap?
Yes, especially in the unit that I'm in. Well, I'm about to leave, but the unit that I've been in for the last 2 years, it's very up. The up tempo is very, very high. It's very intense. They from the day I started till NTC this past summer, it's obviously been slow the last couple months, very slow because of the holidays. But we went to NTC in July, but before that, we were in like 3 different missions. We were in DC
Right.
for the inauguration. We were in 2 Philly missions for riots. The inauguration mission was a month because of the riots and the death that happened in the Capitol. So, yeah, it's been a very, and at the Gap we go to the Gap every weekend. Every drill weekend we're at the Gap.
Yeah, I went to MOST at the Gap for 19 Delta. Now I'm not a 19 Delta anymore. I know
my wife is a 19 Delta. Yeah, so you went to the Army Reserve base. There's an Army Reserve. It's an Army Reserve schoolhouse.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. That's the Army Reserves. Like there's the people that work there are in the reserves.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, so that was fun, but then I switched over to engineers, and they sent me out to North Dakota. And the coolest thing about that entire trip was I went to a race, and at the race they played the national anthem and the Canadian anthem. And that was the coolest thing in the world. I'm like, I'm at a race, and being in Virginia, when you go to a race here, it's like yeehaw, now I got the Canadian anthem, and everyone's still going hee-haw.
Yeah,
that was interesting. So, real quick, Brian, you wanted to mention something. I think it's on everyone's mind tonight. Go ahead.
I was just asking you guys earlier before we got live here, just if you guys were sports fans, because I didn't know if you guys were watching that game last night.
I didn't get to watch it, but I did. I woke up to the news and I saw the footage of it, and man, that's insane how that happened. I guess he got hit at the right time and right directly at his heart, and he went right into cardiac arrest.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the actual. I still haven't even seen like him collapsing or anything yet. But I was cooking, and then I just happened to walk back in because I play fantasy, and I was in all my competitive leagues this year. I was in the championship game, so I had stake in the game. Bengals, Bills. There's a bunch of good players,
Yeah.
And I was like cooking some chili in the kitchen, and I walked back in, and I saw an ambulance on the field. And immediately when you're watching a football game, you're thinking someone is possibly paralyzed, and you're like, oh man, that sucks. But then you hear somebody, and then I just saw everybody crying, and I was like, well, that's a reaction you'd have, but this is it seems to be a little bit more of a reaction than just someone being paralyzed. And then found out that he was in cardiac arrest, and they're doing CPR on him for 10 minutes on the field.
They said he was dead for 9. His heart stopped for 9 minutes.
Yeah, and as a person who's done CPR many times, man, that's not a brutal thing for people to watch. And these athletes have never probably had to experience something like that.
No.
And to watch that, I can totally understand why they canceled the game, witnessing something like that.
Yeah, some people were upset about them canceling the game. I'm like, man, I totally agree why they did it.
Yeah, these guys are people. They're not just money machines and entertainment factories for us. They're people. They have families too, man. And
and the players on the team, they're all basically brothers.
Yeah.
So some of them actually stayed behind and are still in Cincinnati at his bedside.
Yeah.
So that just shows you how much these guys care for each other.
Yeah, because some people were asking me today. They're like, well, why do you think they stay on the field that long? And I'm like, well, first you're doing CPR. You can't stop that. You can't just stop. It's even like it's practice if you're in an ambulance and you're going down the road and someone goes into cardiac arrest, you have to stop the ambulance, get him kind of stabilized, get that going before you start going again. But I did not see the impact. I did not see the collapse. But I saw all the reactions of the players and that, this morning, because I didn't watch the game last night. But it does show you that these guys, they spend a lot of time together. And it's just like, I don't want to pull a Tom Brady and say that it's like the military, but it is they have their own type of brotherhood.
They do, yes.
And I think we can relate at that point.
Yeah,
it's just like a lot of good buddies that hang out with each other, and something happens to one of them, you're going to feel it.
Yeah, I think Brady, I get what he was trying to say. I just think he worded it the wrong way.
Yeah,
he did. He worded it wrong, and everyone ran with that.
So, they will. That's exactly the way the world is. They will twist anything you say into making it sound like it was not what you said.
Right.
But he didn't help. He didn't help himself. You know what I mean?
But I mean, I understand what he was saying. He just meant people were like more of a brotherhood. There's more of a attachment. It's not like people that work in like not working in a job where people come and go. You know, it's like you're in a career where you're with these people all the time. I mean, even nursing, you're with these people 12 hours a day. So they become like a little bit of a brotherhood.
Yeah.
Or I guess,
I also think it's just like, so in law enforcement, we have an officer that goes down somewhere. We might not know them, but we feel for them, their families. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why is because we all know what has to happen for that line of work. So the same in football. They know that these young guys, they start at a very young age playing football. They train. I hate seeing a football player get hurt on the field. I do. I like hard hits, but when someone goes down, the first thing I think of is all those practices and all those games that those parents and those players spent their entire childhood into their adult life doing, and this one moment changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get that part.
Yeah.
So the last thing I heard was he was still in critical condition, but I haven't heard about any updates.
Yeah, I haven't checked recently. That's what I heard. Then you got the actor Jeremy Rent. Last I heard he might lose his leg.
Who's this? I didn't hear about this.
He's an actor. He's in the movies, the Marvel movies. Is it Marvel?
Okay.
Yeah, it's he's the Hawkeye.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. He got a snowplow accident. I guess it ran over his leg. I don't know if he fell off of it. And it backed up onto his leg or what, but
I didn't hear that he was going to lose a limb. I heard that he had a crush injury though, or some kind of injury like that where it was crushed. So, and then I think there was another guy that's like I don't know if he races cars or what.
Yeah, I heard about him.
He died in a snowmobile accident.
Yeah. People do some dangerous stuff, and sometimes it ends bad. I know when, being a dad, having a rambunctious young man for a son, I'm constantly on him. I'm like, dude, you gotta slow down. You can't, he likes to brag about driving fast. He's like, oh, my car is really fast. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes there, Bubba.
Yeah.
Let's not go fast, because you're not that experienced yet. You're 19 years old. You're still learning how to drive a vehicle, and just one little slip up and you're in for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So let's change gears here, because we could talk about that all night, and then we're going to get sad, and I'm going to have to get more of this cranberry juice. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about your TikTok.
Okay.
So, Jacoby here is a big on TikTok, and I actually made a video, I think it was last week, saying that one of my goals for you is to hit 1 million. And I know you're almost 700,000 followers right now.
Yeah, that's funny. It's that's the goal I made for myself on TikTok, is to hit 1 million, and I will do it. I will make sure I do it. It's a goal that I said this year is going to be a big year for me on that app, and I'm really trying to take off, because I just made a new Instagram account, so I'm trying to get that up and going. So it's big plans. So I'm hoping it works out and I hit that. 1 mil is like, it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think that it's possible, because if you would have said that a year ago when I was only sitting at like 200, 250,
right?
In a year, I grew 400,000 followers.
Now, did you start because of COVID?
Yeah, I did start because
Okay.
my kids wanted me to have a TikTok. So main thing was just to get it and watch videos.
Okay.
And then I made a video with my son, and it was not military oriented at all.
Right.
And it went viral, like really viral. So I was like, wow, this is crazy. And like, as soon as I got that taste, I was like, man, I want more.
Right. So Brian, he does a lot of what we call mill talk. So he does a lot of military content, and he does a lot of comedy to it, which I love because he'll change up characters. So he'll change, and I'm pretty sure it's basically stopping the video, and then you're not doing you're not piecing together from different videos. You're just
no, I don't do all that. That's too much.
Right.
I just kind of I'll stop the video, change, go to the next guy. It's a little bit easier. I don't have the camera. Like I could do some. I think there's some videos where I've pieced them together, but there's not very many of them.
So I don't want all your secrets because we were talking before the show. I'm not a comedy guy on TikTok. I don't think I can ever. I might make a joke that somebody goes ha ha for like a half a second, and then they're like, okay, squirrel. But what do you have a storyboard, or is it just like something pops in your head and you just run with it?
It just pops in my head and I run with it. But this year I think I'm gonna try not really a storyboard, but at least writing out my skits.
There you go.
Yeah, I might start because I don't write anything down. I just do it off the top of my head. But I think I feel like if I put more effort into it, I'll get more out of it.
Now with TikTok, you have definitely networked with other creators and made some good relationships. I know you're buddies with Eric Martin.
Yes.
Right. And so there's all these creators. Now, have you met the Sergeant Major?
I have not met. No, I have not. I've not met him. I think I tried to once, but he wasn't in the area when I was down in Florida. So yeah,
it's one of those things where you take your average person and you start making content, and people enjoy that content, and it just goes from there. And it's a great thing. It's a great outlet. It's a great because like I was talking about earlier, I just like to do inspirational stuff. And some days, it takes me 8 takes to make a video. It's in the head, and I'm just I'll say one word that doesn't make sense, and I'm like, damn it. Like the other day, I didn't even stop it. I screwed up saying TikTok, and I just went, all right, tickety-tockety, and then just ran with it.
Tickety-tockety. Yeah, I get it. So it's crazy, though, when I look back at my TikTok career, as if you want to call it that, you see the creators that are on there right now in Mill Talk, which I don't really associate much with a lot of the Mill Talk community because there's a lot of toxic negativity that I don't want any part of. You notice I don't do negativity. I won't do it. But me, Sergeant Major, habitual line crosser. One Punch Dad. I think he started shortly after I did.
Right.
Are the originals. The ones that if you look back at it when I first started, Sergeant Major, then you got Dirty Bird who left. He's no longer a part of him and I talk though. We still talk. He's doing well.
Right.
But it's nice being known as one of the originals on the military side of TikTok. And the fact that I've stuck with my videos and how I'd make my videos and the person I am, I haven't changed it since then.
Right.
Makes me happy knowing that I haven't changed myself just because I've gotten a little bit of fame. I'm still the same person, and I want people to always know that. My wife gets frustrated. I don't think she gets frustrated, but she cracks jokes because everybody knows me.
Right.
In the military world, civilians, you go up to them, they really don't know me from a hole in the wall.
Right.
But you go to a military base and everybody knows you, and it's wow, this is crazy. Like I'm really making a difference here. It's really cool. I like the feeling. But I'm still trying to do what I can to help soldiers. So I think that's important.
See, Brian doesn't have a TikTok. If he does, he hasn't told me.
I do not.
You don't have one?
Mm-mm.
I think you have one, and you're making thirst traps. And you don't want the soldiers to know.
Out there shaking it.
Oh yeah, because it's the Steven swag. He's got the little hidden.
We got some tips from the last guest we had on.
What's that?
We got a little tips on that from our last guest.
We did. Yes, we did. How to make thirst traps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
I can't do them. Like I said earlier, before the show started, I can't do the thirst traps, and it's like you have to stick to your niche, and you can't you don't want to change things up just to get the views, and then it's not
exactly. And that's big. I think that's important. It's really easy to just take your clothes off,
right?
And
we have tons of them to do it.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people that do it, and that's fine. If that's what you want to do, by all means, it works for you.
Right.
It's not me. I don't like that's. I'm trying to get my followers a different way.
Right. Now, like for me, I have basically a mission of why I do it, and I know you being a big influence for military. Do you feel like you have an obligation or responsibility to the soldiers and how they interact with you?
I do. And there's times where I've thought about like stopping making videos. There's been a couple times because sometimes it gets overwhelming.
Right.
Because I feel like that constant need to make videos, because if I stop, I'm letting soldiers down.
Right.
And I don't want to do that. But also I had to find a balance, because the main people that I don't want to let down are the people under this roof.
Right.
And that's crucial, honestly. If I let them down, you know what I mean? It's not going to help me at all as far as the future goes with soldiers either. So
it's definitely a balance of how you do these things. Now, Brian, because I don't like you being quiet, it makes me nervous. Do you have any questions about how this works? I mean, we can probably talk all day about the mental health part of all of that. Because Brian was in the Army Reserves for 6 years. And I know that it was a little different, but I think the soldier's a soldier, no matter if it's peacetime, it's wartime.
Yeah.
So.
No, I just never, I think it was because I didn't have, like you were saying, Jacoby, you had a teenage son who kind of got you into it. My son, I didn't have anybody that really got me into it. I mean, I'm going to get on the next TikTok.
Yeah.
I didn't catch this wave.
Yeah.
And not even know, like you guys were saying, it's not like you just get on there and start acting like a jackass. You got to kind of have a passion for something. And I don't even know what that would be. I'd have to like think about what that thing would be. But I could definitely see myself doing like skit kind of things, like just nursing, dumb
it's
nursing.
Fun. I mean, and there's a lot of people that are nursing that do videos for nursing.
Yeah.
It's just you got to find what you're into. It took me a little bit because once I did have that first viral video, I was like, man, what do I want to do? And then that's when I started seeing military content. But it was just sound, like using sounds and stuff. And I said, I kind of want to do maybe a skit or something and see how. And the first skit I made hit like 2 million views. So that kind of told me right there what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Do you I think you've done a couple things on mental health, have you?
Yeah, I've done a lot. There's a lot of videos about that.
Because I think when you talk about the toxic part of the Mill Talk, I see a lot of the just toxic and trying to bring each other down. I mean, I've seen so many people try to throw policy at someone that's just trying to have fun on TikTok, and just bringing guys down or girls down. It's crazy.
It's just like there's a time and place for that, and honestly, I don't feel like doing it on social media is the right way, and it's not the professional way to do it as an NCO. and we as NCOs are supposed to be professional. Yes, we have TikToks, we joke around, we make videos, right. But when it comes to soldier on NCO to soldier contact communication, it should be done in a more professional manner. If you're going to correct somebody, maybe send them a message.
Yeah, I tell you, even with my soldiers in real life, when they screw up, I don't do it in front of anyone, because I'm part of that. You praise them in public and you scold them in private, and that's what I've always done with my soldiers. I think honestly, in my years of being an NCO, I think I might have smoked 2 soldiers in my entire career, and that was just because they just plain out lied about where they were at or what was going on, and it affected other soldiers. And that 2 times. Other than that, it was like, hey, let me talk to you here in the back, because embarrassing them and all that other stuff, that doesn't work anymore anyway.
No.
So these soldiers are smarter. I don't want to call them softer, because if they're soft, it's because of us, because we lead troops, and it's our job to make them the way they need to be.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say I'm failing. So I'm not going to call my soldiers soft.
Right.
Now, do I have some soldiers that haven't understand the concept of coming to drill? Absolutely. I have one soldier right now that has not gotten the concept of he's got to come to drill every month, and not just miss drill up to that 8 mutas right before he hits that 9 muta.
Yeah.
He's going to cut. I got one soldier that's doing it all the time.
Yeah, I got a soldier that's always late, that has excuses. He's not a bad kid, but he just doesn't know anything about responsibility.
And I try to tell him, matter of fact, I sat him down last month and I said, hey man, look, you're a young man. You don't understand that, hey, in a couple years when you want to use these VA loans, you won't be able to.
Yeah.
Because you didn't do your obligation.
Mm-hmm.
So you can serve in the military for 6 years, but if you don't make a good year each year, you don't get your VA benefits. Mm-hmm. And people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys were talking earlier about like recruitment and being down and things. Do you think that's part of like, because I mean, I'd noticed that a lot of people don't want to come to work. And in the private sector, that's kind of like, okay, you have a lot of unions that protect you, all this other stuff. In the military, it's more you should show up to work or you're going to be in a lot more trouble. Do you think that kind of has gotten recruiting down a little bit because of, that's just the way that they are. Their work ethic is like this generation's work ethic.
I feel like the work ethic is. I feel like it's a lot of it, not a lot of it, but some of it is work ethic. They don't want to put in the work, or they don't realize that they signed a contract and that they have to abide by that contract. These kids don't understand that. They think they can just do no call, no shows. And the problem is that they can right now. They're not really doing anything about it.
No.
Back when I was first in, they were sending cops to your doorstep if you didn't show up.
Oh, I do that. I send. We'll go out and go to our local courthouse, and I will get a Class 4 misdemeanor, and I will have the sheriff's department go out and serve them that warrant, and they'll have to come to court.
Yeah,
it's just for us, it's only a $250 fine, but it definitely scares them.
Yeah.
But then I have parents that call you and go, hey, my baby is not coming to drill, and he said that the sheriff came out to his house. I'm like, yes, ma'am. They're like, well, is he going to jail? I'm like, well, no, ma'am. He just has to pay a fine. She goes, well, he'll be okay. He'll just pay the fine. I'm like, you don't understand. I had one grandparent tell me it's probably better if he just gets kicked out of the military. I'm like, this is not a good thing. Your 19-year-old grandson is going to not have a good job.
Yeah.
Because of the mistakes he's making right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely different, and I knew that I was changing when I saw a soldier just plain out disrespect an NCO, and the NCO said, "Hey man, start pushing." The kid said, "F you, write it up." And I was like, yep, we're going down a slippery slope that I don't think we're
going to. It's bad. It's and with social media and everything, soldiers have the access and to everything now, and they can put everything out there, and they can call anybody out whenever they want to, and there will be no consequences or repercussions. And it gets upsetting at times because they are really quick. Soldiers are quick to blame toxic leaders for their issues rather than taking ownership of their responsibilities and their actions.
Yeah, it's definitely a little different. I know when Brian was in, it was they wouldn't tolerate it. You'd get smoked because I think Brian, you went in like 3 years after I went.
96.
Yeah, so 2 years. So I went in 94, my original contract, and then you went in 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So because you went in actually at 17, right?
Yeah, I was 17. I turned 18 a month later.
Okay. You imagine Jacoby going in 17?
Well, that's what Becky did. Becky, the boss, she went to basic training between her junior and senior year of high school, and then went to AIT after her senior year of high school.
The split option.
Yep.
Because they were both in the Army Reserves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, so before you went into the Army, what did you do?
I worked at a warehouse for 7 years. Forklift operator.
That's good money.
Yeah, I was making good money. Making good money. I mean, I was working ridiculous hours, but it was good money. Insurance was good. Bonuses were nice. I look back at it, I'm like, man, that was a good job for being young. It was a solid job. I got lucky when I got that job. They had like stock plans and stuff where you got extra money for bonuses, and then like your 401ks. It was nuts. But yeah, that's what I did before I joined the Army.
It's nice little options there.
Yeah, it was a solid place. I mean, in fact, tomorrow the funeral I'm going to, the services, the viewing is actually in the town that I used to work at.
Okay.
And
so you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah. I lived here since I was 5.
Okay.
I got adopted when I was 5 and moved out here.
Okay. See, we never went to Pennsylvania. We were never stationed there.
Nope.
You're not missing much.
No. Yeah.
You're in the
we got spent a lot of time in Germany.
Yeah.
We live near Hershey. We're about 30 minutes from Hershey.
Okay.
So it's not too bad. Hershey's nice. But like I said, anything else is about a 2-hour drive from us.
So your game tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a drive.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour drive. If I'm lucky, because the traffic. Last time I went 2 weeks ago, and the traffic was nuts. I got it.
So where is your MEPS at? Because if you go recruiting, you're gonna have to drive the MEPS all the time, right?
Yeah, there's two MEPS near me. One's at Fort Dix, and one's in Harrisburg. Yeah, Fort Dix. Yeah, I've never been to Fort Dix, and I live like an hour and a half from there. I've never been there.
Oh wow.
So, but yeah, there's 2 different MEPS near me.
Yeah, I think Virginia, we only have one.
Really?
Yeah, Fort Lee is the only MEPS that I know of.
Okay.
So I was lucky when I went back in the Guard. I didn't have to go to MEPS. I just went to the National Guard base, and I went to this old building, and they just did a couple tests on me. Like, well, your prior service. I'm like, bro, I've been out for more than 10 years. But they let me go, so I was like, woohoo! Because when you have to go to MEPS, they make you walk like a duck. They do all kinds of funky stuff to you.
I don't want to talk about that, man.
Yeah, MEPS was pretty intense.
Brutal. Bend over and spread them. No thank you. Okay. Why do you need to see my butthole?
Yeah. What is in my cornhole that you must see?
What must you see in there? What do you think I'm packing in there? What's in there? What do you think?
That little. Have you guys ever watched Dave Chappelle comedy?
Yeah.
Yes.
When he's talking about whenever the cops pull a black person over, they identify themselves. by bending over and spreading their cheeks.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it's come back as like, I got a 92.
Yeah, I do not. I remember going through MEPS and I had to go to Oakland because we were stationed in California right after I graduated high school. And I went to the MEPS. And I was going to tell you the funny story for when I went into the Navy. So I actually left California and went to Florida, where I'm originally from. And I was there for about a good year. I went to college. Everything was going good. Something just hit me. I went back to California briefly, and I went to the recruiting station for the Navy. And the Navy's like talking to me, and they're looking at my transcripts, and they're like, "Hey, your grades don't look too bad. What's the problem?" I said, "Well, I'm drinking all the time, and I'm chasing skirt." And he goes, "Well, you can do that in the Navy." And I was like, "Well, sign me the hell up." And I was gone like a month later, and they weren't lying. I mean, I drank a lot, and there was a lot of women in all those ports. That's one good thing about the Navy. So, yeah. I enjoyed my 4 years in the Navy. I traveled the world. And then the craziest thing about that was I did, right when I got out of the Navy, I did a year of try one in the Guard. Hated it. So I left it alone. And then when I went back in, my very first drill, they said, "Welcome to the unit. We're going to Iraqistan." I'm like, "What the hell is that?" They're like, "We don't know if we're going to Afghanistan or we're going to Iraq, but we're leaving in 11 months. And then a month later, we found out we were going to Iraq. And I remember telling my family was like, "Hey, look, you can go back in, but we don't want you going to war, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, I'm going to find a unit that doesn't have any type of combat." And I picked Cav. And of course,
you don't pick Cav because Cav is always going.
Always going, yes. But, the reason I picked combat arms is the craziest thing, because I was in a recruiting station. And they were trying to sell me on engineer, or even back then it was the firefighter, right? Yeah. And there's this kid that came in. He was in like a neck brace. And I'm talking to him like, "Yo, bro, what happened?" He's like, "Well, I was in Afghanistan, and my Humvee went off of the side of a cliff, and I broke my neck. I was the gunner." I said, "Damn, man, what MOS are you?" And he's like, "I'm a cook." And I was like, "You know what? If I got to go to combat, I want to be combat arms. I want to learn everything I possibly can, because they're putting cooks in gun trucks."
Why do you cook on the gun?
Yeah, I don't know why they did it, but my man was a cook. He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm a cook." I said, "You were a cook as a gun truck, and you got hurt." Could you imagine explaining that to your parents?
Yeah.
Like, "Yeah, Mom, I told you I was flipping omelets." But really, I was shooting gas.
Yeah, I was flipping omelets turned into flipping Humvees.
Flipping Humvees. Yeah. But yeah, that was that man right there changed, because I was like, "Yeah, I'll do this engineer thing or whatever I was going to pick." Firefighting thing looked pretty cool. And then when my man told me that, I said, "Nope." And the guy came back in. He's like, "So we have infantry?" And I was like, "I'm not doing infantry. I'm not running around the woods." He's like, "Well, I got this cabin." Boy, they sold it. They were like, you run around in a Humvee and you surveillance. And I didn't know that I was going to be doing a lot of walking anyway. And then they give you a cool hat, spurs.
Don't ever call the Stetson a cool hat. Please don't.
I never even bought one. I looked at the prices. And I'm like, "Yo, man, I don't make enough money to go out and spend this money." Yeah. I got my spurs, because you do the spur ride. But no, I never got a Stetson.
I said, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah. Well, I love your videos. That cowboy hat is the greatest for the cab. Do you ever get people in the cab that make comments to you? They like, "Yeah, man, that's pretty spot on."
Funny thing is like I said, I support, my unit supports a Cav Scout unit, Cav Squadron. So I deal with Cav Scouts every drill weekend. So it makes it even better.
Oh yeah, they run around and say, "If you ain't Cav, you ain't shit." And they get that all day.
Talk shit. Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, but that's how they sold me on that.
Yeah, you fell for that really good.
I fell for that, and I wanted to get back in. Money was tight, And it was before. Well, it was right after the crash and everything else for the market and everything else, and I needed more money. And back then, my department wasn't paying a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they got me. They hooked me right on in. So now I'm making great money, and I'm like, can I not go to drill? But I of course have to go each start month, and I have to shave the beard off every month, and that breaks my heart.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where I think like maybe I don't continue doing army full time. Maybe I find civilian life outside of the army and just finish my M-Day 20. But I'd have to find something that pays more what I'm making now or more to do that. I mean,
that's hard. That's
hard.
extremely hard.
Opportunities out there. It's just I haven't really looked. That's probably on me. I haven't really looked.
Well, you get I don't want to say comfortable, but you get comfortable in your finances,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, well, I mean, it's not broke.
Yeah.
I got a nice check coming in every 15 days. I don't want to mess this up.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people. That's not just military. That's civilian folks too. I mean, I get a retirement. I get to retire in like 2 years from both. I get to retire from my law enforcement job and the military pretty much the same year. They're a month apart.
Yeah.
And I can't go nowhere yet. Like they ticked me off, and I look at my bank account and I go, all right, well, I'm going to work today. Still haven't won the lottery, so I can't just say I'm not going to work.
Yeah.
So I smile and wave, and I go back to work. So
well,
I think that.
Yeah, I was going to say sometimes it's like even if it's just the people you like to work with, sometimes that's part of your job. You're going to go someplace and you're like, I don't know what kind of jackass I'm going to be working with over there.
Yeah.
So it's a benefit to like the people you work with. So if you like the people you work with, consider that part of your pay.
Yeah.
For you, TJ, you're more stuck. Like you're towards the end of your career. Like I've got 2 years, man. I'll deal with any asshole I have to deal with.
Oh yeah.
Years. But not everybody has to, is in that like almost up against retirement situation. Not everybody has that much white in their beard. TJ.
Well, look, I remember being 25 years old and getting my benefit package, and they said you get to retire at 50 years old, and this is what you're going to get for the rest of your life. And it's like 76% of your retirement or 76% of your base pay. And I was like, sold. So every year I get that statement, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm keeping going. I'm going to keep going. And that's one of the greatest things about a retirement plan. I know Brian, he has to set his own up. He's got to do 401s. He's got to do all this stocks and all that good stuff. But you and I, we have a retirement. Yeah. And I think that's important for people to really think about when they go into this line of work. And, a couple of years ago, the military changed to this blended retirement. And it kind of works out for some people because no matter what, you're getting something out of it. After 4 years or 6 years, whatever you serve, you're going to get something out of it if you put the money in. Mm-hmm. I stayed on the original retirement. I was like, nope, I'm going to keep pressing on, and I'm going to get my retirement.
Didn't change mine.
You didn't change yours either. I just said I'm good. I know I had a first sergeant. He was selling that. I was like, are you getting a commission on convincing soldiers to change it up, man? I mean, he gave a whole presentation. I mean, it was legit. I'm like, dude, and he did it at like the train station. I'm like, what in the world, man? Mm-hmm. So Brian, you've set up 401s your whole life or your whole career, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've been doing this for at least 20 years, right?
I got my license in 2004, so 19 years.
Yeah.
But one of the big things, like, one of the reasons I moved to this new company that I started with and I plan on like retiring with, I kind of did my time in the ER in another company and was like kind of done with that. And then when I went to this part of my career, I was like, okay, I'm going to jump to a place where I'm going to get some benefit from staying here. So like this company, you get after 10, I can't remember if it's 5 or 10 years, there's different levers that get pulled. You become vested in the company, you get healthcare for the rest of your life through the HMO. So like, even though you're having to save for your own retirement, there's big expenses you're not having to pay for eventually. You're not having to pay for your healthcare. You're not having to pay for some of the crazy things that you're, planning on doing in life. or like that you have to do later on in life, like pay for that kind of thing. Those are huge expenses for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of nice in that aspect.
Yeah. Sounds like a good deal.
Don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. But
so my goal tonight is not to go over an hour and 10. So this is going to be a great question for you. 10 years ago, when you joined the Army, if you could look back right now and tell your younger self or give yourself some advice, what would it have been?
Oof. Honestly, it would have been go AGR from the beginning.
From the beginning?
Yeah, that'd probably be the one thing I would change. I wouldn't say, people were like, "Oh, do you wish you would have gone active?" No, because I had my reasons.
Right.
I went National Guard. I wouldn't have the time with my kids that I have since I'm guard, because obviously my older kids are with another woman, so
right.
I wouldn't have seen them. And I wouldn't have met my wife, or I may or may not have met my wife if I would have gone.
Right.
At base or at AIT, we started talking, and then after that we started dating when she got stationed at so may not have worked out there either. So honestly, it would just be, I should have went AGR sooner.
Okay.
Life, I learned a lot as a mechanic. I really did, but I probably would have tried to go AGR sooner.
I like it. See, I didn't ask you any crazy questions because earlier, Brian, before you came on, I was saying, hey man, this podcast, we're just laid back. We ask a couple questions. We have a normal conversation like we're at the bar. And he's like, well, that's good, because the question, I'm not going to repeat the question, but the question that he got asked on the podcast. I was like, that's crazy. Now, if Becky was on the show, she might have asked you an OnlyFans question. That's her.
Yes, that's her.
Days. You got to watch a couple of shows before this one. She really touched on OnlyFans, and we're concerned about her sister. We're going to find her feet somewhere on the internet.
Feet.
So. She's all about them feet. So, but Jacoby, I appreciate you coming on. I love your content. Keep doing what you're doing.
I will do.
If you ever want to come back on, just let us know. I like doing the duets with you. I just like laughing at your stuff and just reacting to it. So it's fun.
You followed me since day one, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, matter of fact, Brian, him and I were in D.C. together. We actually talked about that when we were both on the ground in D.C. After the January 6th. So we have that connection. So, but thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jacoby.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And hit that 1 million.
Oh,
yes.
I hope so. Thank you, guys.
All right, now have a great night.
You too, guys. Have a good.
All right, now.